Welcome back to the Chosen Journey. I'm the chosen lawyer, and do not adjust your sets. That is not Tom Cruise, but that is big money grip, Steve Karsay. Steve, I feel severely underdressed today. I saw you as we started the program. No hoodie, no hat. Are you off to meet the president? What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, I just cleaned up a little bit today. I'm gonna go surprise my son at school and have lunch with him. So I figured I would tidy up if I'm going out in public and just go have a nice lunch with my son on a Friday mid-afternoon at school.
That's nice. Now, I always thought to myself, if I was to leave a profession and spend more time at home, I would pretty much donate all my suits. I would have just a collection of T-shirts, hoodies, and one token sport coat. Does that sound about right?
You're close, but I have a few more college shirts in my closet from my playing days. Not too many more suit and ties for travel, but just a business casual if I go out to a nice dinner or something.
From the different teams you played, we didn't discuss this before, and we're going to get to our agenda for today. But you brought up, you bring up items, and then it kind of triggers something in my mind. So I got to ask you, for the different teams you played, and I've read about this over the years, as far as dress codes on the road goes, and what the league mandates and what the team mandates. How much different was it as far as the rules of what you had to wear, being the Yankees, on the A's, on the Rangers, on the Braves, or were they all pretty similar?
So it's evolved over time, let's say, just like the game of baseball has evolved over time with different rules and different things. Early in my career, in the early '90s, when I got to the big leagues, it was more, hey, you need to dress up, you need to wear nice, you know, college shirts with a suit jacket and maybe suit pants with some nice shoes. If you wanted to wear a tie, which a lot of guys did, it was their way of just kind of feeling good about themselves and getting on a plane and going to a city. So that kind of was the trend in the early '90s, mid '90s, somewhat in the late '90s with all these teams. And then as you got into the 2000s, it started to get a little bit more lax. Certain teams started to implement. You can wear really nice jeans with a collared shirt and some nice shoes, and then it evolved from there, like a business casual, um, and then it evolved with jeans, a collared shirt, no coat, especially in the summertime because it's hot, and then there are a lot of guys now who travel, who wear Nikes, who wear a nice pair of tennis shoes, whatever the style is, and comfortable Adidas shoes or whatever it might be. So it's kind of evolved. If guys want to wear suits and ties when they go on the road, they're more than welcome to wear suit and ties. But a lot of guys just like to travel a little bit more lax, comfortable, especially on long trips, going across the country with, either a nice pair of baggy jeans with a collared shirt and a comfortable pair of shoes.
I remember the as far as meeting, at the time at the hotels and being in Toronto, but being on other in other stadiums in other cities, and seeing the players outside. And I remember one of the most popular was the Mike Greenwell look. It was the polo shirt with the chinos, the penny loafers, no socks, absolutely no socks. I don't know if one guy in the majors at that time owned a pair of socks, but that was a very popular look. And especially in the hot summer, it's really, really hard with those long sleeve dress shirts. I don't care if it's even, what it's made out of. Even if it's a light breathable material, it gets really, really hot. And especially you're on a bus or in a taxi or whatever, I always found the polo was a nice look. And that's kind of like the collared polo look with the two, three buttons. And that was a good in between look kind of thing. But especially across different sports, you really see, in basketball, they had to implement a dress code because guys were wearing like, pants that were like five sizes too big on them and oversized jerseys. And it wasn't a look that the league wanted to present with themselves. But, I struggle. I think all businesses and any occupation across the board, companies struggle with, what's a look I want of my employees to the public out there, but also you have to measure employees' comfort levels. It's a whole ball of yarn with that. With coaches, did they have the same dress code as the players?
Yeah, same dress code. I used to just travel in really nice jeans, just a pair of nice dress shoes and a collared shirt. Obviously when I was in Milwaukee, a little bit colder earlier in the season, April and May, so you wear the long sleeve shirts with a jacket, not a suit jacket or a sport jacket, but just a regular winter coat. And then as the summer came, you kind of transition into the short sleeves. And then most teams nowadays always pick something out in each month when they travel to do something fun. Like my first year, we had a trip to Montreal, and we played an exhibition game in Montreal, two exhibition games in Montreal, and we traveled from Arizona to Montreal, and we all wore Canadian sweaters and Canadian Montreal Canadian hats as just a fun way to travel. When we have basketball day or basketball jersey day, so guys get to pick out that, and just different Fourth of July. You can dress up as anything you want. You can dress up as Uncle Sam. 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team was a popular. The Harlem Globetrotters were popular. So guys get to just have fun and dress up and travel what they're most comfortable in.
So, question as an American, have you ever heard the term Canadian tuxedo?
I have never heard of Canadian tuxedo.
So, you want to know what a Canadian tuxedo is?
I would love to know what it is.
Jeans shirt and jeans. That's called a Canadian tuxedo. You would think it's going to be flannel, but it's a jeans shirt and jeans, and that's called a Canadian tuxedo. That's when they dress up. Now, you talk about, as far as day to day and what wearing outside representing the team, but also, there was something once upon a time called hazing. And, the veterans would have the rookies dress up for fun and all sorts of kind of outfits. And back in the day, were you ever part of that? Did you ever get to wear one of those embarrassing outfits?
I missed it. In 1993, I got called up towards the end of the season, and they had done it a little bit prior to that. Usually they wait till September. I don't know what transpired in that year, but I was fortunate enough to miss dress up day, and I'm happy that that occurred.
So you never had to walk around in a Teletubbies outfit for the day around town or in the airport, so that's good. What about the backpack? You get like the grade 3 backpack and you have to carry everybody's chews or tobacco. Do you ever get stuck with the backpack?
Never got stuck with the backpack, but on travel days when I got called up, the youngest guy, and this was when this was, allowed and kind of what it was, but I had to make sure I had a garbage bag full of beer for bus one and bus two. So from the clubhouse to the bus on our way to the airport, I had to make sure that there was a garbage bag full of different kind of beers to put on bus one and bus two. And then we would get on the plane and travel to uh, just say Kansas City from Oakland. And then from the plane, I would have to get two garbage bags from the plane and put them on bus one and bus two for the ride from the airport to the hotel for the guys who wanted to enjoy a beer on the bus on the way to the hotel. So that was my job, for the majority of my rookie year that I was in the big leagues in August and September, was just to furbish or to make sure that, the gentleman on the bus had a nice drink to have on their way either to the hotel or to the plane.
Man, times have changed. They have severely changed. Now we're well into spring training 2023 as we're looking towards the season. I ask you this all the time, and I ask you again because it really triggered me with Kareem Garcia when he came on. First of all, how cool was it seeing Kareem after 20 plus years?
Yeah, it was fantastic. He hasn't really changed a bit. Same monotone guy who really expresses himself well, and is a big countryman of Mexico, and really enjoys his team. And I'm sure he's looking forward to the World Baseball Classic as he always does.
The calm ones are always the ones you most need to be worried about because they're calm and calm and calm. And then they get to the situation, they're the ones right in there. And being part of two major baseball brawls, is quite a thing to have on his resume. And like you said, I'm ready. I'm going right in there. But something that stuck out to me, we kind of slipped it in near the end. I don't know if you caught it or not, was talking about his present day and future. And, living in McAllen, Texas, he's like, the opportunity comes up. I'll cross the border, go back to Mexico, go back to coaching. Steve, 24 years playing plus coaching, and the man is raring to just cross the border and get right back into it. I gotta ask you now. This is now year number two as far as being away from the game for a bit. Is it getting any easier or harder? Like, is the itch there? With spring training, the season about? Like, you're like, man, I really wish I was in that ballpark. Or how you feeling these days as far as the decision being away from the game?
Well, the itch is always there. You miss your guys. I mean, that's just part of your DNA and who you are as a person that's been in the game and in the sport for such a long time. I don't think that will ever go away from me. The competitive nature of missing your guys, being with the guys, competing on a daily basis. But again, when you do it for such a long time and you're in it for such a long time, sometimes priorities change. And as much as you love something, and as much as you want to do something, there are other and bigger and better things on the horizon as you're living your life. And it was just time for me. It's hard to explain. I didn't want it to be time, but I knew it was the time. And I'm at a point in my life where my son is 12 years old. He's becoming a teenager. He's getting into his adolescent years, and he really needs a father figure to, uh, you know, teach him the ways of the world and not be gone for such a long time. And again, I'm just very fortunate to be in a position that I'm able to step away and walk away from something that I love and love to do for such a long time to fall into something that I love and want to grow until he's an adult and can be on his own and move in the direction that he wants to move in.
I've talked to you off there about this many, many times as one father to another. And, my son's 17 turning 18 and, when you're going on road trips and he's the one driving, it's mind blowing. When we're going to come see you in Arizona, driving over from Canada, he's doing the driving, most of it. It's, I remember changing diapers like it was yesterday, but something about fathers and sons when they hit 12 years old and then 13 into puberty. I remember it's just such challenging times. And I really, I did a lot of reading about this, talked about this with my therapist, and these are the developmental years where you're shaping them from grade school to high school to adulthood, and those high school years are so crucial. And you can think about when you were in high school, for example, and how many kids fell through the cracks, and simply because they didn't have that guidance, they didn't have that support. It's very easy to say, they're already adults, they can manage themselves. And, they it's funny, you think that they need you less and they actually need you more versus when they're babies and they really need that guidance and everything else. There's something about that father son bond. And I look back at those years and I'm like, man, it was like, it's my best friend, but man, just such a challenge. But I will say this much, it got easier every single year. And you stick together and you communicate and you build this respect, and you got your friend for life. It's unbelievable. And that's where I still consider myself fortunate. Anytime he wants to do something with me, I'm like, I'm so glad, because it's like he's 17. It means I got one more summer with him, and then that could be it. And that's really scary proposition. But for anybody out there, whether it's your son, daughter, father, mother, you can all relate to this. It's the hardest job in the world, being a parent, and the least amount of reward. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a special time. It really is. And like I said, I've been fortunate to be able to do a lot of things in my life. I've been fortunate to play a game that many want to play for a very long time and earn a very healthy living doing it. And now I get to, as many parents would love to do and continue to do and do it in a much harder way than maybe you or I do it. Going to work from 9 to 5 and then having to come home, pick their son up, take them to a sport, get them to do their homework, get them fed, get them in the shower, get them to bed, all in one day. It can be very tiresome and it can be very, uh, tough on whether it's a single parent or even two parents in the house. But at the end of the day, I would say that most of the parents out there would say it's very rewarding as they watch them mature, watch them grow, and have the maturation process in place as they're becoming, a full grown adult.
One of the secrets of life I read before was people say, like, why are we on this earth? For to bring children and bring to the point that they're able to care for themselves and eventually have their own families. That's all of our, I think that's our purpose, you know. And for somebody who hasn't had a child before, you know, it's hard to understand unless you actually see your own flesh and blood and be able to bring them through this world. It's an unbelievable feeling, you know, and one that I look at, and you know, I always reflect like how my life could have been different if not having him. But on the other hand, you know, it's I would sacrifice it all, everything, you know, possible to have an extra minute with him, an extra day with him, you know. So you don't understand that unless you're actually in that situation. So kudos for you for the choice you made and being there for him early. And we're gonna mark our calendars. I don't know if it's 2027 or 2028, but that MLB draft's gonna be coming for you, Kingston Karsay. So
Yeah, 2029, right? I mean,
2029.
it's
Oh, okay.
yeah, he's only in sixth grade right now, so we still got plenty of time to go. But at the end of the day, again, it's very rewarding, and a lot of the players who were having kids at the time that I was the bullpen coach, we used to talk a little bit, and they would ask, "Hey, what's it like? What about this? What about that?" I said, "You know what? The one piece of advice I could give you is your life is about to change. It's not about you anymore. It's about them. And once you understand that it's about them more than it's about you will be a great parent."
Love it. Love it. Now coming back to spring training, we're coming again. The season's almost upon us now. It's funny how time flies. And I gotta ask you, when you had the dates circled on your calendar and you know spring training was starting and the first games were coming about, we had a busy off season. You know, Steve Karsay follows the off season as much as anybody. He knows all the teams, he knows all the players, all the movements. When I send him something, yeah, I already heard about that a couple of days ago. So you keep your ear to the ground really, really well. Were there particular storylines, particular players, teams that you're really fascinated to see how spring training was going to unfold before the regular season? And if so, share with us some of the insights of what you were looking for this year in spring training.
Yeah, there's some major free agents, right, at the shortstop position, and that's what I kept my eye on. I mean, there were a lot of turnover. You know, Trey Turner going from the Dodgers to the Phillies, Xander Bogaerts going from the Red Sox to San Diego, and a few others. Obviously, Dansby Swanson going from Atlanta to the Cubs. So these are premier players. They're at a premier position, and obviously, the dollar value that these players got were very, very large. I mean, Correa was going to get the biggest of the group, right? Until things kind of transpired, and he went back to the Twins, which he still got a nice, healthy contract for where he's at in his career. So at the end of the day, that's kind of what I was following. All the other ones are just pieces. You wait for the big uh, you wait for the big pieces to fall, whether it be pitching or the major position players that sign, and then you find out by the end of December, beginning of January or mid-January, who teams are going to be and who's going to be competitive, who's going to be middle of the pack, and who is going to continue to rebuild. And it'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing these new faces in new places and see how they mesh with that team and what they bring on the field and off the field to the new teams that they signed with.
When you go to pick a game, like you got the MLB package going and you got all these games that you can watch, I gotta ask you because I know when I pick mine, I have my geography, biases where I love to watch the Yankees, I like to watch the Tigers just because I've been to their stadiums enough and watched them over the years. But when I select a team to watch, it's not based on a team. I'm always fascinated who's starting. If there's one particular starting pitcher, and definitely if there's two starting pitchers, I'm very fascinated in. Like my goal this year, I want to watch as many of Otani's starts as possible. I want to see him as a pitcher go, but I think this is gonna be a huge year for him. I'm really fascinated to see where he goes because if he has anything close to the season that he had this year, $500 million is coming. I want to see as many Verlander starts, DeGrom starts. So that's how I pick my games. It's based on the starting pitcher. Do you do the same way?
It's the exact way I do it. I look for the best starting pitching matchup, and then go to that game, and hopefully they go more than 5 innings. And if they don't, I find the next time zone with the next two best starting pitchers, and I move on to that game. So that's kind of, you can always flip back and forth and see a certain hitter if you want to do that. But to watch a pitcher once every 5 days, you try to pick the guy that you really want to watch, and then with Kingston, he's starting to watch a little bit more baseball for longer periods of time, being at this age. And there's certain games that he likes and certain teams that he likes. And he always wants to watch Burns and Woodruff pitch, Freddie Peralta, guys he's been around and have seen and has met. He loves Otani. So we always plug into those. But, those are the guys. And I'm a little bit biased. Obviously, I will make sure and keep an eye on not only the Milwaukee Brewers, but I will keep an eye on the San Diego Padres, and where they're at and what the score is. Because if it's a close game and Josh Hader's closing, I will flip over and pop over to that game and watch him pitch.
I was gonna guess maybe because it was Tatis coming up to bat. No, I'm joking, but I know the hater connection there, and he's a free agent at the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
He is a free agent at the
Mhm.
end of this year, and I think we've had a conversation about this before. If he has a year that I expect him to have, and he had in Milwaukee, I think he may surpass the Edwin Diaz contract going into the offseason.
Edwin did very well. And I got to say this much. If he matches or beats the Edwin Diaz contract, you tell him he should meet up with Edwin in New York, take him straight to the Rolex store and tell Edwin, whatever Rolex you want, buddy, it's on me. It's one of those things that, they talk about a lot in the media as far as taking team friendly contracts, etc. But this is a case where Edwin, really set a bar for closers where you weren't for a while, a lot of teams got burned, on the Chapman deal, etc. And they're saying, closers are not going to get that kind of money. And Edwin went out there and got that kind of deal, and well deserved. And can't imagine the Mets surviving without him. And Lord willing for Hader, same thing happens. It's also nice climate being in San Diego. That team, considering they're supposedly a small market, which they're not, but from a dollar standpoint, they are going all in. They are not going to leave any stone unturned. They are fully in this thing. And if I'm a San Diego Padres fan, I'm loving my life right now, and I'm looking forward to that season.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think going back to the Edwin Diaz, I think the stars just aligned for him this year. I'm not sure how that contract is going to play out, to be quite honest with you. That back end of that deal is going to be a rough one, in my opinion. And I could be completely wrong, but I think the stars just aligned. The Mets, he had a great year. Obviously, he was a free agent. Cohen likes him. Cohen has a lot of money. The Mets want to win. They're signing all these big stars, and they just came out of a new collective bargaining agreement. So I think those things intertwined and mixed and really lined up for him. And it's about being in the right place at the right time. And he sure was.
I'm gonna ask you a really stupid question, but I can't avoid this because I have to put it out there because I really feel strongly about this. If he doesn't have the walkout song with Timmy Trumpet, and not every single MLB fan is using that as their ringtone, and all the national tension, and Timmy Trumpet coming out and playing it as he enters the game and had to be there for a couple of days because he didn't come into the first game, and how much exposure he got for that. If he's not a full blown star just because of his walkout theme song, you think he still gets the same contract?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't hide what the numbers were last year for him. He had a year before, 1 or 2 years before that, where the transition from Seattle to the Mets wasn't very good, and he really struggled. But he's found a lot of stuff. He's put some things together, and he put up a year that is well worthy of a very big contract. That big, I don't know, but big enough to where he's in a good spot.
Think about that now in hindsight, right? And it was as much about really acquiring him as it was taking over that Cano contract, from the Mariners, because Mariners, could not absorb it, being a smaller market, and as far as payroll, etc. How much everything else being equal, Seattle would love to keep him. Obviously, like he was a bona fide star at that point, and you think that it's as much about giving talent. In that case, it was eating contracts as it was, but what do you think the reason was that, coming from Seattle to New York, watching as a coach in the background, what do you think caused his initial struggles and now he was able to rebound the way he was? Because a lot of people are saying, what, he's done. Like, what, he's mentally not there anymore and it's too much pressure in New York. And a lot of people, so-called experts didn't think he was going to rebound. What was your thinking watching him in the background?
Well, there's a lot of things that, in my opinion, go into and factor into a guy getting traded and going to a new team. One, where the new team is. Obviously, New York is high pressure, it's high leverage, it's really tough to play. Getting comfortable there may have been an issue. It might not have been an issue. I don't know. I'm not in his brain or in his head, right? But just how I look at it from and perceive it from the outside, going from Seattle, which is an American League club, even though there's interleague play, going to a National League club in New York, learning new hitters, learning the division, uh, having a new pitching coach. Maybe him and the pitching coach didn't, you know, yeehaw when he first got there and how to use his stuff and how to make adjustments. And then a new pitching coach comes in and helps him make an adjustment that just really clicks and worked for him because everybody's a little bit different. So I just think there's many factors that can go into guys whether they get traded or sign a big contract in a new city to get that comfort level of wanting to, just take the pressure off and play the game that they've always played. But it's hard. I mean, everybody's a little bit different, and everybody, you know, has that level, what I call of being mentally tough. Some guys are a little bit more mentally tough than others in certain situations, and most of the time, those guys thrive, where the other guys will melt under pressure.
I gotta ask you as a player and as a coach because I know my mentality. Any kind of sport I ever play, I don't like wearing jewelry whatsoever. I don't like wearing a necklace, rings, nothing. How does some of those guys, especially the relievers, how do they come in with those giant gold chains hanging off their neck and pitch? I don't understand it. Do the coaches ever say something to them? Is that something that you ever thought about?
Never really thought about it. I mean, during my career, I think I've pitched with and without things around my neck. Obviously, I never really thought about that being a factor in how my performance was. I mean, yeah, I could pop up and hit you in the teeth or hit you in the face if it's long enough. But some guys just are used to it and they played with it for, a long time and they just are accustomed to it.
As we sum up today's episode, looking ahead to 2023 and the season starts, I think about all the divisions. And for a lot of teams, there's, to me, a lot more question marks than there are answers. There's just a lot of uncertainty. I think there's only a finite amount of teams that you can say these are certainties that they're likely going to go to the playoffs. They have a good team. Most of them seem to be in the NL East for some reason. But, the division that kind of like has me shaking my head a bit is the AL East. They used to say that they were the powerhouse league division. And, the Orioles had a nice run last year. The Red Sox, I don't think did a ton. It's the Yankees. It always comes back to the Yankees. No matter what, it seems like, there are Dallas Cowboys. They're the giant powerhouse. And I look at the way they constructed the team, and I'm not excited. I feel like there's a lot of questions at a lot of positions, the pitching especially. People are talking about Carlos Rondon as being, the second coming now for them, and is a sure thing. And I don't see it, Steve. I'm really worried about the Yankees. I'm not saying they're going to falter. I'm not saying they're going to go to the playoffs, but I'd be very hesitant to put money on them this year. I just feel like there's a little bit too much instability there. They have a lot of contracts. They couldn't do too much. I like that Judge came back, but I think it's going to be a struggle for them to make the playoffs this year. What is your analysis on the Yankees going into the year?
It's so hard, right? Because health is a major factor in how teams are going to perform over 162 games. Teams that get some injuries here or there, and whether it be at the pitching position or the uh, or the player position for injuries and knock somebody out for a portion. Like DJ LeMahieu is a really big part of that Yankee team and at the top of the order. And when he missed a significant amount of time, their offense really dropped off. And yeah, you can say it's one player, but sometimes that one player is kind of like the glue to what makes everything work and the chemistry to getting it going. So to answer your question in short, I think the Yankees have a really good team. I think they're going to compete. I don't, in my opinion, think they're the best team in the American League, but I think they're a top three or top four with how they're going to start out and the health of their team. As the season goes along, we'll be able to monitor and we'll be able to see, how these guys who are getting these big contracts and who came in are performing, and we'll see. Baseball's such a crazy game. You can play it on paper before the season starts all you want, but when you get onto the field, it's just one of those things that uh, looking at the numbers and the players' names on paper just sometimes doesn't match up because of the chemistry or whatever it might be. So, uh, you know, the Yankees will be good. I see them competing, and I see them making the playoffs. Um, but we'll just see how consistent they can be in 2023.
Um, for those of us that at all enjoy gambling or take a look at the numbers, just for fun, just as interest sake, this time of year, it's really great to see the odds as far as
Hmm.
teams and who's going to win the World Series. And I saw the odds the other day, and I got to tell you, even if you put a couple $100 down on the Philadelphia Phillies, you'll be making a whack of cash. So I'm looking forward to being a very rich man come World Series time. So time will tell. It's really hard to go past the Astros. I mean, they're just such a powerhouse. They stay consistent. I really like what the Jays did. I'm not a homer for a hometown team, but I really like the moves they made. It's gonna be really hard to get past Houston to make it to that World Series, and for Philadelphia, even in their own division, it's gonna be a struggle. And that's why you say you can't play this on paper. It's long, long season ahead. Plus, you got the World Baseball Classic and injuries and things to consider. So it's gonna be great 2023. Really excited about it. Steve, thank you for sharing your insights as always, and got a curveball headed for you for the next chapter. So stay tuned for next week.
All right, excellent. Great being with you as always.
Thank you.